Space. It's vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big. You may think it's a long way down the road to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Science fiction has long been our way of looking at the vast expanse and asking, what if? From those early days of cannons to make it to the moon to the modern era's hard-edged insistence on proper physics, the genre is ever-changing and shifting with our vision of what the future can be. But where sci-fi can really shine is in the ways we don't change. The ways we treat each other. The known and the unknown seems to remain with us regardless if you're aboard a sailing ship with Magellan and Shackleton, or on the deck of a starship with Wildstar or Kirk. People remain as brave and noble and as petty and absurd as ever. The latter two are what fell squarely in the sights of author Douglas Adams when he penned his galaxy-trekking space satire, first for the radio and then for nearly every medium imaginable. Thumbs up and towels stowed, lads. We're catching the next ride off planet with the first installment of 5 books in the ever inaccurately dubbed trilogy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is your captain speaking. Douglas Adams, born in Cambridge, England in 1952, was a giant of a man, standing at 6'5" as an adult, who was earning literary accolades from the time he could begin to wield the pen properly. From the age of 12, he was earning top marks for his poetry and short stories, and eventually landed at the BBC after university. He pitched radio and television comedy sketches, landing working relationships with comedy legends like Graham Chapman of Monty Python, and throwing scripts at the production office of Doctor Who, eventually becoming an editor and writer for the show in its 17th season. But what truly launched his career was a concept that came to him as he drunkenly stared at the stars over Innsbruck, Austria. Holding a copy of Ken Welsh's Hitchhiker's Guide to Europe, a budget travel guide filled with equal parts useful and dubious advice, Adams mused that such a book should be written for the whole universe. In 1978, BBC Radio 4 audiences were given the first 2 radio series entitled The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Its success quickly spawned the novel adaptations, a BBC television miniseries, a stage show, and a text-based adventure game developed by the mighty Infocom, all looked after and often written directly by Adams. Where other series are bound by canon and adaptations constantly being compared to each other, Hitchhikers has a rather unique position of every single medium having slight differences and all being considered canon and legitimate by Adams and the overall fanbase. There is no wrong way to enjoy Hitchhikers, so it's dealer's choice. This copy is an omnibus of Adams' work on the series, comprising 5 books and a short story. A 6th book, and Another Thing, was published in 2009, but it's a different author, so it's not included here. Coming in at a little over 600 pages for the whole saga, it's pretty tight, and each book is fairly light reading. This is the form factor that I first encountered the series in, and I wish I could tell you that this is my copy from my school days. But that one was left on a chair at MEPS before I shipped out. Hopefully it's still out there, catching rides without me. Anyway, what is the story of this first book? Well, we start where all good science fiction lives, in a random town in the West Country of England. Arthur Dent wakes up to a rather disturbing noise. At 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, Arthur didn't feel very good. He woke up blearily, got up, wandered blearily around his room, opened a window, saw a bulldozer, found his slippers, and stomped off to the bathroom to wash. The word bulldozer wandered through his mind for a moment in search of something to connect with. 15 seconds later, he was out of the house and lying in front of a big yellow bulldozer that was advancing up his garden path. The city has come to demolish Dent's house to make way for a bypass. When Arthur becomes upset, he's informed that this has been the plan for months. But Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the local planning office for the last 9 months. Oh yes, well, as soon as I heard, I went straight round to see them yesterday afternoon. You hadn't exactly gone out of your way to call attention to them, had you? I mean, like actually telling anybody or anything. But the plans were on display. On display? I eventually had to go down to the cellar to find them. That's the display department. With a flashlight. Oh, well, the lights had probably gone. So had the stairs. But look, you found the notice, didn't you? Yes. Yes, I did. It was on display in the bottom of a locked filing cabinet stuck in a disused lavatory with a sign on the door saying, "Beware of leopard." So Arthur lies down in front of the bulldozer to prevent it from going forward for a time, before being visited by his friend, Ford Prefect. "Is there any way we can talk?" "What?" For a few seconds, Ford seemed to ignore him and stared fixedly into the sky like a rabbit trying to get run over by a car. Then suddenly he squatted down beside Arthur. "We've got to talk." "Fine, talk and drink. It's vitally important that we talk and drink now. We'll go to the pub in the village." He looked into the sky again, nervous and expectant. With the pair now seated in a nearby pub, a message rings over the entire Earth. "Drink up. The world's about to end."
"People of Earth, your attention, please," a voice said, and it was wonderful. Wonderful, perfect, quadraphonic sound with distortion levels so low as to make brave men weep. "This is Protetnik Vogon Jeltz of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council. As you will no doubt be aware of, the plans for development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system, and regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you."
The PA died away. An uncomprehending terror settled on the watching people of Earth. And in a sinister piece of irony,
"There's no point in acting all surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display in your local planning department in Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years. So you've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaint, and it's far too late to start making a fuss about it now." "What do you mean you've never been to Alpha Centauri? For heaven's sake, mankind, it's only 4 light years away, you know. I'm sorry, but if you can't be bothered to take an interest in local affairs, that's your own lookout. Energize the demolition beams." The Earth is destroyed, wiped from existence, with Ford and Arthur narrowly escaping. In the hold of the Vogon fleet, Ford tells Arthur that he's not in fact an out-of-work actor from Guildford, but a researcher for the best-selling Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from a small planet near the red star giant of Betelgeuse. Arthur now has to contend with the idea that his home is gone for good, and that the universe is a whole hell of a lot more populated, dangerous, and petty than he'd ever expected. The pair's quest for survival and not to die like chumps in the vacuum of space will bring them into contact with torturous poetry readings, shape-shifting spaceships, death-defying races against atomic warheads, chance encounters with the roguish two-headed president of the galaxy, meetings with the planetary architects, and the coming face-to-face with the answer of life, the universe, and everything. Adam's style is a reflection of the best British comedy has to offer. Quick, witty layers of absurdity delivered as dry and straight-faced as a Cambridge lecture. The primary focus is put on the vastness of space, while also highlighting that folly, vapidness, and callousness are not unique to humanity. The Vogons, Earth's destroyers, are humorless bureaucrats whose only real pleasure is toying with people and holding their feet to the fire through the law. Their misery in being an ugly, competitive, and generally angry race can only be made mildly more tolerable by taking it out on others. One mode of this is their poetry. Arthur Dent sat and quivered. He had no idea what he was in for, but he knew that he hadn't liked anything that had happened so far and didn't think things were likely to change. The Vogon began to read, a fetid little passage of his own devising. "Oh, freddled grunt Bugley," he began.
Spasms racked Ford's body. This was worse than even he'd been prepared for.
"Thy mecturins are to me as blurdle the gabble blotchets on a low-grid bee."
"Ah!" went Ford Prefect, wrenching his head back as lumps of pain thumped through it. He could dimly see beside him Arthur lolling and rolling in his seat. He clenched his teeth.
"Group, I implore thee," continued the merciless Vogon. "My foonting turlingdromes."
Arthur lolled.
"Now, Earthlings, I present you with a simple choice. Either die in the vacuum of space, or tell me how good you thought my poem was."
I've been to enough open mics to know that pain. The president of the galaxy, Zaphod Beeblebrox, is a pair of figureheads on a government that largely elects outrageous people to distract the public from actual politics. A truly far-out concept. And you can't get more outrageous than Zaphod, a two-headed, three-armed, alcoholic, egomaniacal party animal that introduces himself to the reader by stealing a brand new, state-of-the-art spaceship, the Heart of Gold, and becoming a fugitive from the state he's, in theory, the head of. And of course, the big news story tonight is the sensational theft of the new improbability drive prototype ship by none other than Galactic President Zaphod Beeblebrox. And the question everyone is asking, has the Big Z finally flipped? Beeblebrox, the man who invented the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, the ex-confidence trickster, once described by Excentria Gamblebits as the best bang since the big one, and recently voted the worst-dressed sentient being in the known universe for the 7th time, has he got an answer this time? The android that works aboard the Heart of Gold, Marvin, is vastly intelligent, but was unfortunate enough to be given a personality. This means he's depressed and pissed with everyone at all times. There was a sliding door let into the side of the corridor. Marvin eyed it suspiciously. Well, do we go through? Do we go through? Mimicked Marvin. Yes, this is the entrance to the bridge. I was told to take you to the bridge. Probably the highest demand that will be made on my intellectual capacities today. I shouldn't wonder. Slowly, with great loathing, he stepped towards the door, like a hunter stalking his prey. Suddenly, it slid open. Thank you for making a simple door very happy. Deep in Marvin's thorax, gears ground. Funny how just when you think life can't possibly get any worse, it suddenly does. The planetary architects of Megathea, where Zaphod is aiming to go with his stolen ship, designed custom-built planets for rich clients before becoming so rich themselves they crashed the galaxy-wide economy. Even in their building of incredible supercomputers to solve complex problems like the answer and question to life, the universe, and everything, their clients really only seem to have the goal of monetizing it in order to book talk shows and sell merchandise. Amidst the insanity is the sliding scale of normalcy, consisting of Ford on one end, accepting and generally excited about things, Zaphod's second-in-command, Trillian, another human that Zaphod actually poached from Arthur at a party in England months earlier by total coincidence, who's trying to take everything in stride despite the weirdness, and Arthur, who's constantly exasperated, in over his head, and trying his damnedest to make sense out of any of it. This dynamic keeps things fun, but also grounded in a strange way. Everyone's very matter-of-fact about what's in front of them, and having absurdity hit each of our characters differently provides a spectrum and opportunities for different jokes. This isn't even touching the cavalcade of smaller bit players and their asides and quirks, the varied personalities of the computers, from the annoyingly chipper shipboard system of the Heart of Gold, Eddie, to the grandiose and patronizing supercomputer Deep Thought, the dueling scientists and philosophers who argue against each other's jobs while waiting for Deep Thought's reply, the civil servants of Arthur's village, one of which is plagued by thoughts of horses and bloodshed, as an incredibly distant direct descendant of Genghis Khan. And there's a plethora of other characters we just hear a description of, some of which we meet in later novels. Adams manages to create a wide universe that's both vast and incredibly silly. Most of these descriptions come from the guide itself, which were treated to articles and entries at regular intervals. It's a great engine for introducing different out-there concepts in a fun way that keeps it from straying into the deadly sci-fi trap of expository dialogue. It also helps that the explanations given are mostly there to tell jokes, with world building as more of a secondary goal. These entries, things like the Babelfish, an instant translator via a psychic fish you stick in your ear, the importance and utility of a towel as a tool, and the description of the mythic cocktail, the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, have all entered pop culture and are beloved by readers and sci-fi fans the world over. Odds are you've heard someone utter 42 as the answer to life, the universe, and everything, with neither of you knowing its origin. I really see this first book as an appetizer for what's to come, a lovely introduction to Adam's galaxy. The book has a 3-act structure, but the promise of more is built into the text, with enough hints and loose ends that keep things open without robbing you of satisfaction. And close reading is genuinely rewarded, as Adams has a long memory with a tendency to bring joke concepts back in earnest later on. In his writing, he strikes a remarkable balance that is very difficult to pull off. Earnest without taking itself too seriously, and absurd without being flippant. Oft emulated, rarely matched. With the weirdness, there is a philosophical underpinning throughout the series. This feeling of space being so vast and endless that individuals don't really mean much. A supercomputer will work for millions of years to reach an answer and be destroyed before it's done. Wars and conflict can rage, costing millions of lives over an echoed innocuous word. Earth can be wiped from all existence, and the guide entry that Ford spent 15 years writing can look like this.
If you're a researcher on this book thing and you were on Earth, you must have been gathering material on it. Well, I was able to extend the original entry a bit, yes. Let me see what it says in this edition then. I've got to see it. Yeah, okay. He passed it over again. Arthur grabbed hold of it and tried to stop his hands from shaking. He pressed the entry for the relevant page. The screen flashed and swirled and resolved into a page of print. Arthur stared at it. It doesn't have an entry! Ford looked over his shoulder. Yes, it does. Down there. See at the bottom of the screen, just above Excentria Gamobits, the triple-breasted whore of Eroticon 6? Arthur followed Ford's finger and saw where it was pointing. For a moment, it didn't register. Then his mind nearly blew up. What? Harmless. Is that all it's got to say? Harmless. One word. Ford struggled. Well, there's 100 billion stars in the galaxy and only a limited amount of space in the book's microprocessors. And no one knew much about Earth, of course. Oh, for God's sake, I hope you managed to rectify that a bit. Yes, well, I managed to transmit a new entry off to the editor. He had to trim it a bit, but it's still an improvement. And what does it say now? Mostly harmless, admitted Ford with a slightly embarrassed cough. Mostly harmless! Later books have a device that's used for psychologically breaking individuals, simply by zooming out and showing how imperceptibly small they are in the grand scheme of things. There's a feeling of entropy and meaninglessness in the universe. So what matters? Nothing really stays, so why should we care? Adam seems to answer back, nothing matters. Isn't it wonderful? Leave your mark in whatever way you please. Arthur is a man without a home, without a wider culture, adrift in a universe he doesn't understand. And what begins to take shape as the series goes on is his attitude shifting to forging his own destiny amidst the noise and chaos. Arthur Dent is just a guy. Not an action hero, not a Heinleinian capable man, just a man who likes tea, has a decent head on his shoulders, and possesses the British stiff upper lip attitude. He stumbles upon situation after situation that he's not equipped for and simply tries his best to make it out in one piece. Funny enough, for a universe with no gods, no destiny, only infinite probability, Arthur's ordinary and quiet morality, courage, and love of small things carves quite a path for him. Whether the universe is in someone's hands or not, I think Douglas Adams' work speaks to people of all creeds in a way that resonates. You exist, even if no one's watching. And it's a pretty big existence, so get out there and make the most of it. And finally, caring about the things around you, no matter how small or temporary, will carry you a lot farther. I can't recommend this book enough. It's a longtime favorite and well worth your time, even if you're not as much into the sci-fi genre. The series is a bit uneven in later books, but even at its worst, it punches above its weight class. It's fun, witty, light, and improves upon each reading. This packaging of the whole thing is pretty available and no doubt can be found at your local used bookstore. Why not spend the rest of the summer hitchhiking? Next time, back into Sword and Sorcery, as we tell the tale of the mystic swordsman, Cain. Until then, show him some guts.